And it should wake you up. If you haven't been listening, listen now. Hyperinflation is around the corner. What you're seeing now is a desire by other countries and other forces, not just necessarily nations, other forces to come up with an alternative to the dollar. And so people are preparing already. They've already prepared. The smart money's already prepared because they know rates are going to be dipping this year. The past 250 is nothing compared to the next 25 of what we're going to see. And so, again, regardless of your generation, if you're Gen Z, maybe you're thinking about your parents and their future. I hope you are, their retirement. And if you're a baby boomer, you're thinking maybe for your grandkids. So no matter your age, there's no promise that any of us are going to be here tomorrow. So no matter your age, if we start thinking long-term, and New Year's annual thinking is great. I'm not knocking New Year's resolutions. I'm saying, in addition to that, let's start thinking long-term. Let's make sure we're thinking long-term. And when you start thinking long-term, you start planning long-term. And when you start planning long-term, you're thinking generational, right? And so that's the mindset that we're talking about and focused at RISE. My kids are going to cringe. I'm going to have to do this because that's the craze right now, right? 6, 7, and this is not just here for fun. It's actually maybe not the principle behind it, but 6, 7 points are going to resonate throughout this. And so that they don't puke the rest of the night, I'm not going to do it all night. I'm just going to have this on the slides where it's relevant. And everybody else can laugh and keep it to yourselves or whatever, but I don't want the younger kids the folks to puke. So I won't do it every time. Any fans of shooting pool? Anybody like shooting pool? You can walk up to a pool table. I loved shooting pool as a kid, and I still do when I can. But you can walk up to a pool table and start shooting right away, right? But have you thought about, and I get nerded out when it comes to pool, right? I'm a geek. So is the table level? Let's talk about the equipment. Is the table level? Is the slate warped? Are the banks soft? Have we inspected the equipment before we start? Because that's half the game, right? Is to make sure everything is in cue. The cue stick, is it the right weight? Is the tip there? Is it a good tip? Have you got powder for it, chalk for it? So identify the equipment. And then your grip. Do you have it? Is it the right size and the right weight? The stick again. Do you have the right stands to be able to make a shot? Do you have control? Are the balls and the rack, is it set exactly where it's supposed to be on the center dot that they usually have on the table? So that and are the balls set up in sequence so that when you actually break, that it's lined up to be able to break properly and actually maybe even get in the holes in the corners? Because if it's not, the whole game's going to be a mess, right? So what are you thinking about those things? Are you ready? Are you mentally ready? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Or are you ready to really play? Are you focused? Do you have a strategy? And so getting into strategy, are you planning your shots? Not just the shot that you're taking. Are you thinking about the opponent and what shot they're going to take? And then how you're going to prepare for that shot? Are you thinking a shot or two ahead? Because that's what it takes to be a good pool player, right? And then defense, even in your shot. Sometimes it's not about making the ball, right? It's about defending and making sure that your opponent can't make the next shot. So have you thought about that? Are you ready to adapt? Are you ready to use the bridge? Some people have a different term for the bridge. I don't know if you all know that, but let's keep this clean. It's a family event. But anyway, are you ready to use the bridge? Are you ready? Can you switch hands if you need to? Can you be left-handed for a moment and switch? Can you lean over and make a single-handed shot? Adaptability. And I'm using this analogy because it all applies in investing as well, right? It all implies. Do you understand the economy? Do you understand the basics of the economy and what's happening globally and how it impacts your pocketbook? What's happening domestically? What changes are coming in the next 25 years? Before we go invest, do we understand the landscape? And I think that's more important than actually getting into, because you don't have to be a genius. I certainly am not, and my dad wasn't when we started. And I'd like to think, he is incredible, but he's not a genius. He's no Einstein, right? And you don't have to be, but you do need to understand the game. All right. And then when I say strategy, I'm using strategy loosely. I'm talking about, hey, which investment class are you picking? What opportunities? Are you into gold? Are you into crypto? Are you into oil and gas? What's your pick, right? So pick because you're not going to master everything. And the folks in this room, I'd like to think that we're mostly focused on real estate. We believe that commercial real estate is the way. By commercial, again, it's loose, but I'm talking about income. That word is loosely used, but I'm talking about income generating real estate. Are you going to improve your odds, or are you just going to count on luck? Improving your odds, you guys get that because you're here. Working, learning, education, all of those things, getting skill sets down, right? To be able to improve your odds, not just going in and putting money in. We're not talking Vegas. We're not talking lottery. We're talking about an educated approach to investing. And then, are you ready to fail? Do we understand? Are we ready to risk and put our time and our money into failing? I have failed personally, and I'm not just talking about investing. This applies to your personal life too, right? One thing you don't know, Coleman was asking to share things that you may not know about each other. I was 60 pounds heavier just 2 years ago, all right? And so it's been a journey. And so are you ready to fail? Because failure is the way to be able to ultimately succeed. If you're not just going straight into a venture and you think you won, you may do well, you may do all right, but until you've actually failed, you haven't crossed boundaries. I love her participation. She's saying, yep, I've been there. And in 3 years, it's amazing what you've done already, right? From where you started. That's it. That's it. I got ahead of myself, by the way, real quick. I just wanted to thank everybody. A lot of people came from quite far. Stockton, Sacramento, San Diego. Oh my God. Grass Valley. Yeah. And so thank you all for coming out. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And I can see the room because you guys made an effort on the first day back in business to be here. So thank you again for that. Debt. Is debt a bad thing? How many people think debt's a bad thing? It's a strategy. There is good debt. I mean, there is bad debt and there's good debt, right? So we'll talk about that. And then are you doing things where you can really make money while you sleep or compound and scale? Or are you just going to be a saver and whatnot? Because that's a dangerous aspect. And I'm preaching to the choir to some of you. Some of you really get this. Some of you are learning. So let's talk about understanding the game just a little bit, right? And there's some words here that the main point of this slide is really not just understanding what the economy, but really the main point of this is what's coming next. And it should wake you up. If you haven't been listening, listen now. Hyperinflation is around the corner. And we're going to talk about that. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize tonight, really, as I get into this. And we'll touch on, things that are happening globally. We'll touch on things that are happening domestically. And then some other factors that are, regardless of where you are. In 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, we froze their dollars. You may be aware of that, right? We put sanctions, we took the oligarchs' funds, we did everything. And it is not a political conversation. I don't care red or blue, up or down. We're just talking math right now and how it affects your pocketbook, right? So when we put those sanctions on Russia and we froze their money in the bonds, in the T-bills, or the liquidity everywhere. We took their dollars and we said, no, you're not getting them back. When we did that, we told the whole world, you could be next. You could be next. If we don't like you, China, or whatever's happening in Venezuela right now, you could be next. We could just freeze your money. All right. And so people at that point, countries started saying, hey, wait a minute, that just happened to Russia. Maybe it could happen. So maybe we take a little bit of our investment out of dollars. And that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see a lot of countries pull away from investing in bonds and whatnot. So, and then China has been weaponizing what? You got several countries weaponizing silver and other metals, precious metals. You got China weaponizing rare earth minerals and the refining of rare earth minerals, which make all of the AI and all of the military, your cell phone, your computer chips, your missiles, all of it, they control about 80% of the world's supply and the ability to refine rare earth minerals. Excuse me? Yeah, at least 80%. And so the point is that that's being weaponized today to stop us from having the next iPhone, right? Or Android if you're an Android. I'm not going green. I'm staying blue on the texting. All right. The petrodollar system. Anybody familiar with the petrodollar? Everybody is. All right. So basically, for those who may not be as familiar, I'm just going to touch it real quick. Originally, as you guys know, every currency from every empire was backed by gold. And you can go back to the Roman Empire, maybe even earlier, not maybe, certainly. And you can come all the way through the Dutch and the Spanish and the British and to America. When we became the superpower, we were always backed by gold until about when? Early 70s, right? And then that's when our economy should have took a shit. Pardon my French. That's when we should have collapsed right there when we said, hey, in God we trust. It says it on our bill, and then we trust in God and you trust in us and we're good. But it didn't collapse and we remained a superpower. Why? The petrodollar system. The petrodollar was introduced in 74 saying, hey, Saudi is the main supplier of oil. At least it has been historically, right? Saudi is the keeper of oil. Everybody still needs oil, no matter how much we talk about solar and EV, whatever, electric, this and that. We still need oil to run everything. We still need oil, coal and oil. And so Saudi controls the majority. And you could only get Saudi oil if you had dollars. We told the Saudis, hey, we're going to protect your kingdom. We see all these other Arab countries running around you, ready to have your lunch. We're going to protect you. In exchange, you're going to sell all that oil in only dollars. What did that do? Created a need around the world for dollars. What a brilliant, genius plan, right? That's awesome. I'm not here to shit on America. Any empire is going to do what they got to do to be the empire. It's always happened. It always will, right? And so it's not about politics. I'm just trying to get into the math, how it's going to affect your pocketbook. All right. All right. But now what's happening with the petrodollar?
Well, they started opening.
Yes. For the first time in history, in the last few years, you have now Saudi oil being sold in yuan. You have it being sold in rupees and a couple of other currencies. And it's not a huge amount yet, but it's the trajectory that is concerning. Right? And so that already is eroding the power of the dollar. What you're seeing now is a desire by other countries and other forces, not just necessarily nations, other forces to come up with an alternative to the dollar. And that's why you see Bitcoin going, through the roof or becoming a thing, whether it's going to be gold as it was originally, whether it's going to be crypto, or maybe a multipolar system where it's not just a single currency. I keep wanting to get right in the light of that camera, the recorder. So it's not just maybe it won't be a single currency. Maybe you'll have a group of nations like BRICS or ASEAN nations or whatever saying, hey, we're going to come up with this new currency or this new digital value, let's call it currency, to be able to trade. And that's already happening in small amounts. As some of you are shaking your head, Garth, where did you come in from, by the way? Yeah, Santa Rosa. I thought so. It was a bit of a trek. Yeah, thank you. So that's already happening. And the whole point here is that the value of your dollar is getting diluted. Yes, please. I don't think there's a direct correlation, but it does speak to hyperinflation because it's just the penny's going to be essentially, it's already useless, right? And so yeah, imagine your $100 bill being useless in a minute. Think I'm crazy? I mean, yeah, imagine that. All right, so when we talk about domestic issues, we're talking about, the excess of printing extra dollars, right? We've been printing. When everybody needs dollars and you have the printing machine, you don't have to reconcile your books. You can just print more money, right? Because we control the dollar. And that's what we're doing. That's why our deficit is now at 36 trillion and just shooting through the roof like never before. That's why we're in debt as consumers, partially, and I'll get back to that. And that's why we're in debt as a country, because we could just keep printing and we can still keep living our quality lifestyle because there's no end to the borrowing. And so because of that, you get into inflation, you get into constant debt by the consumer and by the government. And debt, again, we talked about earlier, is not necessarily all bad, but we have to understand what's creating it and what's behind it and how you're going to use it to your advantage or how you're going to fail if you're not prepared. And then demographics. The baby boomer, the largest workforce that we ever had in America, is retiring, right? The whole China policy of one child failed. So let's think about how demographics really played. People don't talk about demographics enough. If you ask me, it's the number one driver for the economy. The number one driver for the economy. All right. And then you have, look, again, I'm not a genius. You have statistical data for every empire in the history that's gone through its stages. Every empire, it's just an evolution process. It's a mathematical process. It's inevitable. And so all I'm telling you to do is understand that and be prepared to take advantage of it. All right. So what can $3,000 buy you today? Zan would say you can buy a gaming PC. Zan, I'm putting you on the spot. You can buy a nice gaming PC for $3,000. If it existed 100 years ago, 110 years ago, you could have bought that for $100. But you're going to pay $3,000 for it today. That's how much the value of your dollar has come down in 100 years. And this is historical. We're not talking about 26. We're not talking about the next 25 years. We were there in 23. So what's coming? All we had to do to make up for that lot, you can't buy much for $100. All right, we're just going to give you more money. Look how much more money is circulating just in 5 years or 4 years from 2020, from the pandemic to now. We got a lot more money out there, but it buys you less. That's why we need more of it. right? You can't buy the same with $100 you could before. So now you need $1,000. You need $3,000 to buy what you would with with 100, excuse me. So we're just printing more because we got the printing press. We can do it. And guess what? We print at lightning speed because we don't even use the damn printer anymore, right? We just do it digitally. The Fed can just go and say, oh, $5 billion added to the bank basically by funding the Treasury. Boom. Treasury gets it. Banks get it. It's coming out to you. You're borrowing it. We all got money. It was great during the pandemic, right? We got flooded, but we're going to pay for that going forward. Excuse me? Yeah. How are we doing? Are you all interested? Am I boring you yet? Give me some love or feedback or tell me. All right. You feel it when you go buy a cup of coffee. You feel it when you're at the gas station, right? Tell me you don't feel it. Even Gen Z can vouch, oh my God, what you've seen in the last 5 years, right? And some of us, I remember we didn't have the fancy ice cream places you do now. I remember going to Thrifty's Ice Cream as a kid, by the way. I get into tangents. Remember Thrifty's Ice Cream? Anybody? Oh my God, 5 cents a scoop. I used to get 3 scoops. And my dad would get crazy. 3 scoops, 15. Are you crazy? Yeah. I mean, that was golden. I remember, I missed that. Anyway, you feel it everywhere. And for those who aren't buying gas at the gas station, you feel it in your electric bill. It's crazy. All right. So what happened with the house rentals? I would love to, by the way, see where you can rent a nice house for $2,000 in California. This is nationwide, right? This is the nationwide average. It's even crazier here. But renting? Now, this is not buying. Sorry, this is renting. I wish even renting at $2,000. I wish that was possible out here for a nice home. It's not going to happen. All right. So anyway, this is just it tells you. I don't need to spend a lot of time here. All right. Some of you are old enough to remember when mortgage rates hit 20%. Back in 81, I was 12 years old, just for the record. I wasn't already doing business. 20%. We can't even comprehend that. We've been crying about 6, 7, 8%. 6, 7. But what's important here is not the rate, the peak, the amount. It's as expensive as it was when you saw those rates. What's important here is the peaks and valleys, right, of what you've seen in the last 10 years. And the smart money knows in advance what's happening. The smart money leverages this up and down cycle. Are you? That's why you're here tonight, right? Because you're going to start doing that. All right. And so how do you know what's happening? Don't worry about getting into this technical stuff, but this dot plot, whatever they call this, the feds are telling you in advance what they're going to do. And all you have to do is be able to review this data, know that it exists, kind of plan for it. And yeah, or just ask me. But when people ask, hey, when's a good time to buy? The rates are high, the rates are low. Should we buy now? I always go back to the tree analogy, right? The best time was to buy property was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, regardless of rate, but especially when rates are low, right? And so people are preparing already. They've already prepared. The smart money's already prepared because they know rates are going to be dipping this year. And they're getting ready to buy when everybody else is busy with New Year celebrations and resolutions and all that stuff. The smart money is already positioned. All right. Again, not to be a downer. I'm a blessed man to be an American. I'm a blessed man to be in this country. And at the same time, I need to tell you that we are on the tail end of a decline. And so I would say we're teetering between excess printing and revolutions. All right. Because you're about to see the hyperinflation I keep mentioning. And when the hyperinflation comes, we're going to have unrest, not just domestically, but because the dollar controls the world, at least for now. I mean, you already see things starting to happen. I mean, we forget about the Middle East or Ukraine. Now we have the event in Venezuela. That could be the catalyst. And it may not be the catalyst, but it could be. There could be something else that comes along. Any headwind, any tailwind, whatever you call it, could be the catalyst to really kick off what I'm talking about. And again, it's not to scare you. It's to prepare you. It's just inevitable. So we're right here. And then you're going to see a restructuring. And I'm not saying it's going to be China. I'm not saying who it's going to be. I don't know that it's going to be a single nation. I just know that change is coming and you can be prepared. All right. So no subliminal message with this one. Let's get prepared. Let's protect and let's prosper. This isn't all doom and gloom. We got solutions. All right. So again, you don't have to be a genius, but a couple of smart guys said, hey, compounding is the way to go. Invest your money wise now, and it pays off in the long term. Again, the quarter century plan, the 25-year plan, generational wealth thinking, mentality. Put it away, plan ahead, long term. This guy, he even said, hey, I think manufactured homes are a good place to put my money. And he invested heavily in Clayton Homes, one of the largest, if not the largest, builder. You might take his advice. Anybody know Sam Zell? Rest in peace. He just passed away not too long ago, but the largest private real estate holder until he passed, right? And he's saying, hey, trailer parks are the best. And I'm a little biased, but so is Sam Zell. So I'm good. All right. I'm not a genius. And my picture's here because you don't need to be a genius. I was blessed enough to be raised in a family where we have a history, 8 generations, of being in commercial real estate. Second generation of being in mobile home parks, manufactured housing communities, the new politically correct term, which I love. And I will use them interchangeably. Yeah, third generation sitting there. But yeah, second generation, not by accident, folks. I went out, I did other asset classes. I've done other distressed businesses. I've succeeded and failed in those. I'm second generation by choice. I was part of this, building this since I was 12. July 19th, 1981 is when we bought our first community. And I'm not going to bore you with all my credentials. You'll see them online. You're going to get this deck and all that. It's not about me. It's about telling you that, hey, this is not some guy up here teaching you theory, because I'm not a super educated man. All right. I do have the actual street knowledge. And I'll say I'll couple that with one thing I did in terms of formal education. I did go become an appraiser. And as many as you may know, you don't make money as an appraiser. It sucks. You don't make a lot of money. But I knew that because I did it because I knew I was getting the street smarts at home. I wasn't necessarily getting the textbook and the book smarts. So what I wanted to do was become an appraiser of mobile home parks. And I went in, I skipped residential. They always tell you, you got to start with residential and then you got to work your way up. No, you don't. Not as an agent, not as a broker, not as an appraiser, right? And so I went straight into commercial property evaluations and quickly into mobile home parks. And I did that because I needed to understand the fundamentals from a textbook perspective, not just what my dad taught me at home. And I needed to make sure that reconciled. So you're talking to a guy that's been around this game for a little while. All right. And so Eric touched on the last point down here, the passion. The passion comes from making money. I love making money. I mean, we all need it. We all have to. And I'm not trying to, when I say love making money, I'm not promoting materialism, consumerism. I'm against that. But I do know that we all need the capital. We all do need this that's what makes the world go round. We know we're all, and so, but along with that, wow, you can make money and lift others. You can make money and provide the American dream. You can make money and build communities where people get to own their own home. Oh my God, I'm in heaven. I've been loving this for 40 years plus, because I'm doing both. I'm making money and I'm helping others along the way, and you can too. All right, so if you say, no, okay, Ali, that's great. You're real passionate about it. I'm going to tell you why this wins, all right? And you challenge me, anybody, not tonight, not in front of everybody, please, but one-on-one, challenge me if you come up with, if you decide that I'm not right. As an investor of anything you're investing in, the bottom line question you have to ask as an investor is, what can I do that gets me the greatest return in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of risk, right? And least amount of headaches. I always like to add that. So greatest return in the shortest amount of time. When I say shortest amount of time, this is not a get rich quick strategy. This is a get rich slow strategy. I'm not talking about the unicorns in Silicon Valley and get rich quick. That's not what I mean by the shortest amount of time. I'm saying balance with the level of risk you're taking, right? What are you getting for the risk and return reward there? All right. So, if you look at stocks or you look at crypto, and by the way, it's another night, it's another topic, but the stock market's largely controlled by 7 companies that are highly overvalued based on the assumption of permanent growth, when in reality, they have already stopped growing. They've already plateaued. So that's what they don't tell you, because the top 10% or the top 1% are killing it. But the rest of us aren't really kind of seeing that benefit. Most of us are not seeing that benefit from the stock market. And then that crash is coming. It's inevitable. It's just math. Crypto, I don't need to expand. Precious metals, always been solid, but I don't think of that as an investment strategy. I think of it as a great hedge. But it's not going to generate, it's not reoccurring income. It does increase in value, but it's not generating income for you on its own as a passive income or otherwise. All right. Oil and gas, oil and coal, I don't want to go into depth about it, but natural rare earth minerals, that's great. But again, you don't have the options here domestically like maybe others do elsewhere. So of all those areas, I am biased to real estate, commercial real estate, income generating real estate. And one side note, guys, let me tell you something. All of those other ones that I just mentioned, if you really get deep on it and think about it, they all come back to land anyway. Even crypto, they all come back to land. And manufactured housing is about land banking, but it's about land banking in a way that's also generating income. So again, a little tangent, but all of it comes to land, and that's why I'm big on commercial real estate. Within commercial real estate, I love these three categories. Someone's here in self-storage. I heard it earlier. Yeah, thank you. I love self-storage. I love parking. I'm investing only in manufactured housing communities, and I'll tell you why. All of those share the same business model. And again, I'm going to sound rude, and I don't mean to come across politically incorrect. You can make money in anything and everything, whatever, but I'm going to tell you why. I've done parking lots. I've always been a fan of storage. I haven't had the opportunity to do that, but I've lived that through other people or seen it through other investors. And they all share the same business model. Small areas of real estate leased for short periods of time for the maximum return, maximum economies of scale, and efficiencies. That's the same business model in all three of these. All right? The reason MHCs win is because shelter is an essential, and the others are already saturated. Those asset classes are very saturated. You can't find the metrics, the ROIs, the IRRs, the cap rates, whatever tickles your fancy. You're not going to find any more sexier metrics than you can still in this asset class, the manufactured housing. And whether you go it alone or you find a group to join, we can still be a resource for free education, free knowledge at RISE360. So lean on us anytime you want. All right. If you don't believe everything I'm saying, go to ChatGPT. What I learned the hard way over 40 years, you can just put in a few questions, a few prompts. The validation's there. Who wins? Every aspect, every category, whether you're looking at tenants and the efficiency of tenants, tenant retention, or whatever. And you're going to get this deck. I'm sorry if I'm moving too fast, Tasha. All right, so whether you're looking at operating expenses, and operating expenses, by the way, are much lower in this than multifamily, than any other class. Self-storage is probably pretty competitive, by the way, in that. But overall, if you look at the ratings in terms of risk and returns and all of it, it's not 6.7, it's 6.9. Yeah. So look at the dramatic, and this is, I think, genius. Karen's not here tonight. Karen from our team took all the stars from all the last few slides I just showed you, and she added them up. And look at the stark difference of what ChatGPT or Gemini is telling you. All right. And why does it win? Why does it win? These 6-7 reasons, right? So, it's an absolute essential. There's always demand for affordable housing. You're providing the American dream. There's lower cost to operate, and it's not as management intensive because you don't own the building. The resident owns the building. You renting dirt. I love renting dirt and getting paid. I don't have the headaches, but I'm getting all the upside of real estate. Man, I mean, that's phenomenal. You're going to find better quality, better quantity of deals than any other asset class. Hold me to that. Say again? All right. Again, sexier rates, and then you'll see anywhere else in any other asset class. Ellie's looking at me like, I got to challenge you, brother. And all right, awesome. All right, so guys, this is our moment. We went from trailer trash, like you saw in Eminem's 8 Mile. We went from trailer trash and slumlords, and you're in the park business? And now we're the darlings. Everybody wants to be me, and everybody wants to be what we're doing. And there's a frenzy I'm seeing from people coming from self-storage, and I'm going to pick on Ellie, keep saying that, but coming from multifamily more than anything else, to be fair, coming from industrial and master, what do you call these, triple net leases, all that kind of stuff. Everybody's trying to get in, and it's great. I welcome it. It's actually helping us become a real industry. It's improving our technology. It's improving the quality of the homes, the design of the homes, the financing available both to buy communities or to buy a house. It's amazing what's happening now. We're actually a real industry. And so it's no longer that old, great-grandpa's trailer. This is what we look like now, right? And they're energy efficient. They're amazing. We've come a long way from the stigma. All right. So our traditional buyers are still there for the homes, and now we're attracting the newer generations who figured out that this is a hack. I can't buy a regular house in the Bay Area. How can I own a home? How can I get started? I don't want to commute 2.5 hours from Modesto to go to work in, Sunnyvale. All the manufactured homes in the Silicon Valley are filled by the tech workers. It's a new resident coming in, new profile. All right. So we started late, and I don't know if I'm going to go in deep, but this is where I geek out normally. And this is where I tell you deep strategies of where are you going to invest? Where are you going to buy the park? What type of park or community should you buy in terms of market selection? We have a star rating system in the communities. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. I personally love 2 to 3 star. Oh, I did the 6, 7 thing. 2 to 3 star mid-tier, secondary markets or just below secondary markets. And things of that. These are examples of the type of things that we look at for market selection. So you want to be careful about market selection. And then just like any other asset class, we have CapEx opportunities, capital expenditures, to make improvements and increase the value. And then infill is slightly different here, right? We can buy homes, and I don't want you to do it under the same entity that you own your property, but you can buy homes under a separate entity, place them, make money, monetize the flip of that home, and more importantly, generate income on your land because you get collecting space rent. You can accelerate filling your vacancies. And that is one of the strategic things that we do. It's counterintuitive. It isn't conventional. A lot of lenders even frown upon property owners owning homes, and that's why it's one of the reasons why you want to do it under a different entity. But the point is that what might take a lifetime to fill a community, why? Because people can't afford the upfront cost to buy a home. Most residents who can put 5 or 10% down can't afford also on top of that, the transportation cost to move the home in, or the setup cost to install the home. Because that's coming out of pocket. That's not necessarily financed oftentimes. And so they can't afford that. And that's why a lot of these homes, despite the huge demand for affordable housing, you hear it everywhere. That's why they sit at 30, 40, 50% vacant. That's exactly the reason why they sit vacant. And the old farm owners or the landowners who've owned these for generations, they don't need to bother filling it up. They're already made their money. They're just sitting pretty. They don't care. Or even if they care, it's just too much work. They're not going to do it. What do? I go buy those homes. I put them on my pads. I make easy financing available. Another profit center, by the way, if you can do it legally in your state. You can provide the financing. You can provide a turnkey solution for someone to just move right in with 5% down, easy qualifying, and get from 60% occupancy to, dare I say, 100? I'm going to say 100, because if you look at people doing this strategy, they get to 100 because affordable housing is huge. So not 80, not 90, not 95, 100. I'm saying it. Hold me to it. All right. Other ways to make money, and we'll go through this quickly. Maybe you can make money on the utilities. Right now, a lot of the parks, they're not sub-metered, and they're metered directly to the park. And so you pay the bill, and oftentimes that's included in people's rent. But if you find a park where you can actually pass that through, that's another profit center, sometimes greater than our rent increase in California, where you can do it percentage-wise. So
can you implement RISE?
Yes. Implement what? Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So other revenue streams, can you maybe include some self-storage in your community if you have extra land? Can you include parking? Excuse me? Oh, yes. I want to make sure I'm getting everybody's questions or comments, because this is good. Engagement is great, guys. Thank you. All right. So people don't think about leveraging local ordinances, but you think about rent control, and it's awful, right, for the investor. And everybody cries about rent control. But do you actually ever read the rent control? Do you extract the language that actually might work in your favor, even if the city didn't intend it to? We do. And you can find it if you do. And so if you look at it, and so there's opportunities there. Let's not leave any stone unturned. Is that how we say it? Yeah. All right. Tax. We can't negotiate. We can't appeal property taxes because of Prop 13 California. But if you're investing outside of California, that's another area that you don't want to overlook, because you can actually appeal I did it in Texas.
You do bonus appreciation?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge, well, we have improvements as well. We have your amenities like, the pool, clubhouse, etc. And then you have the homes that you're putting in, which you can also include. Absolutely. And you can still leverage that for the cost segregation. All right. So, and thank you for asking. Creative financing, obviously not to be overlooked, whether it's seller financing, whether it's maybe a master lease play or other creative ways. Talk to me. We can get into it more. But again, I'm trying to get through this faster for y'all. And resident-owned communities, something that the industry frowns upon, but an opportunity for a resident not just to own their home, but maybe even you selling their lot, the lot underneath their home to them, so that ultimately they own both the home and the land. And you might think, well, that sounds kind of counterintuitive or crazy. But ultimately, if I'm going to exit from a community and I can sell it to an institutional buyer for X, or I can sell it to the resident who's been there for 30 years and wants to pay me X plus 10%, I'm going to go with the resident. The industry doesn't like it because once it leaves the market, it's never coming back for sale again, right? Brokers don't like it. Lenders don't like it. No one likes it. But again, we're championing not only ourselves, but the resident as well. So that's something that's pretty fascinating. It's almost like a co-op play, like you would do in multifamily. All right. And then I would beg you to always be thinking, I can tell you about the things we've done over the last 40 years, but I too, and we all need to always be thinking about, hey, how's the game changing? What are we doing? If you're in football, if you throw the ball where the receiver is, you're not getting to the Super Bowl. You better be throwing where he's going, right? And so similarly in business, you better be thinking 2 steps ahead, like the pool table analogy. Where is this going? What's the trajectory of this industry? For example, I'm not just looking at mobile home parks, I'm looking at RV parks. Not because I want to be in a hospitality or transient business where people are coming and going. I don't want to do that. We started with one. That's not what I'm not trying to get into that risk, even if it's more money. I don't want that. I want the stability of manufactured housing communities. But I can buy an RV park because now people are familiar and comfortable with ADUs and tiny homes and small spaces. So I can buy that RV park and I can convert it to permanent living. And I can buy it for a fraction of what I would pay for a regular manufactured housing community. So I'm adjusting my game. Let's be thinking and adjusting as we go. All right. These will resonate in any other asset class. I heard some different asset classes. I heard single family, self-storage. I heard multifamily. These will resonate and say, hey, Ali, you can tell me I get those in my space. And you do. I believe you. And I'm just telling you that the level, the scale, the degree, I would argue that you're going to see these things more in MHCs than you can in any other asset class. So we funneled down, right? We funneled down from, just to recap, we funneled down from crypto and metals and all of that and stock market. And then we said CRE. And then within CRE, I'm telling you why manufactured housing communities. And then I'm telling you a little bit about things to avoid if you're getting in and buying on your own. You know, if you mix the income from the land, like the space rent, with income from the homes that you sold, you've now skewed the value of that asset because the homes don't appreciate. They depreciate like your cars, right? Because they're not sitting on simple on lots that appreciate, right? Because you own, as an investor, you own the land, the homeowner doesn't. So therefore, they depreciate much like your car. But when you have brokers and sometimes brokers with malicious intent, or you have ignorant appraisers, or even lenders that loan and sell you properties based on income and cap rates and metrics, including that income, guess what? You're overpaying because that income from the homes is not to stay. It's not permanent. It's not like the dirt. So you're overpaying. Watch out for that. Seller financing. Everybody loves a deal when you don't have to go to the bank and you can keep your ability to borrow for the next deal and the seller's going to finance. Oh, wow, sexy, great, let's do the deal. If you're getting just heirs being financed, if you're paying a premium and you're getting seller financing, but you're financing heir, maybe that's not so smart. So make sure you're not paying for something financed that you shouldn't be paying for at all, especially if it's coming from homes that are being mixed in, all right? Due diligence, buying right is key. If you don't understand the local landscape, again, so going back to that pool table analogy, understand the game, understand the local laws, understand park-owned homes versus tenant-owned homes, and understand how to leverage the utilities. Understand before you buy. And if you can't do it on your own, if you need help, reach out. All right. So because the interest rates went up, we had some people hesitating. We had buyers hesitating, right? And again, I told you earlier, we should always be buying. Don't hesitate, buy. But yeah, a lot of people were hesitating because, I don't want to pay 6%, 7%, 8% interest on a mortgage. Forget it. I'll just wait until things come down. All right. What happens next? When the inflation goes through the roof, even if interest rates fall, and they will a little bit, what happens next? When shit hits the fan, everybody's going to get scared and get sidelined, right? That's what history's told us. It happens every time. The majority won't act. They'll be scared. They want to go, but they won't act. Everybody's been talking about action. Colm and Eric, action. Your time to act in 2026 and the next couple of years is coming. Get ready. Be excited. It's time to go. Because when the market takes a real dive, that is the time to go. That's what Warren Buffett's doing. He's been preaching it on YouTube everywhere if you're watching him. He's been holding his liquid assets and holding his money to go and strike the moment this happens. I think he knows, we can learn a thing or two from that guy. And it's when everybody else gets sidelined, remember I told you it's time to go. All right. So what you're going to see is when everybody else gets sidelined, you're going to see more deals and you're going to see good volume. You're going to see sellers who can't get buyers because people are scared. And that's the time that they're motivated. And it's time again for you to take advantage. How do you find the deals, Ali? Where are you going to find the deals? Yeah, you can go online. you can go to the marketplaces online, and sure, you should talk to brokers and lenders and bankers and professional accountants and lawyers like I've done all my life. Yeah, you can go to them and you should. How about the gardener at the mobile home park? How about the resident that's been there for 30 years that's got an ear with the owner? Or the pool man or woman? It's amazing. When you just get to know the community and you reach around a little bit, it's amazing. You don't have to be limited to what everybody else is doing. Let's think outside the box. Let's get a little crazy about how we get to those off-market deals. All right. So, I'm not saying you have to partner. I'm saying you can go it alone. If you have the knowledge, if you have the liquidity, you have the time, and you want to do it yourself, by all means, go for it. And if you just want someone to call or a company that's going to provide you some resources, we'll do it. I'm happy personally to do it. Hold me to that. And that's fine. You can do that. But for those of you who don't necessarily have the time to go invest in or to learn what I've had to learn over the 40 years with practical experience and want to be more passive about it, what are your options to scale faster? You could build a team out, or you could join a syndicator. You could join a fund. And I'm saying, as opposed to doing it yourself, or as opposed to joining a REIT. Because REITs are great for REITs, for the actual REIT themselves, but you're going to get a very modest return, right? And so, do you want a modest return with the REIT? And if you do, with the least amount of risk and whatnot, that's great. But you're not really getting the value of being in commercial real estate, income property, by, as many of you may understand, by putting your money with the REIT. It's going to be good. It's not going to be great, right? And so you can do it yourself, or you could go this route of joining a syndication or a fund, or maybe even a joint venture and partnering with somebody. And so those are some options that you could consider. All right. So that's all I got. Yeah. I don't know why the 6, 7 slides there, but thank you all very much.